and thunderers unleash their deadly fire upon anything without a beard.
Anything without a beard? Oh no. I was recently gifted Total War Warhammer 2, so since we'll be streaming that at some point, I figured there's no better time than now to check this out. As always, the link to the original video will be at the top of the description, so please head on over and support their work, because I'm just a dude who's here to learn about Warhammer.
For thousands of years has the race of man been involved in a constant fight for its own right to survive. The brave men and women of the Empire have faced horrors untold, enemies coming from everywhere, and tribulations that have taken them to their limits. Yet humanity have always stood firm against the ever-growing raging fire that seeks to consume it.
This was something you guys were pointing out in the video where we talked about whether Warhammer Fantasy is better than 40k. Whereas in a universe like 40k where everybody's pretty much doomed, in fantasy you have these humans who are kind of like, I guess, the underdogs who are standing against like impossible odds, and yet somehow they can survive, and with their powers combined they're able to overcome all these challenges, and it's just like really inspiring, you know? So I'm very interested to see exactly how they're able to stand up against all the people who are against them. Because, like, humanity doesn't really seem to have the tools that all the other races had, or at least from what I saw in the cinematic trailers.
Now it seems that they are cornered once again, facing enemies from all sides, with the number of armies marching against them higher than ever before. It seems like extinction has come. The heart of every citizen of the Empire burns with an inner fire. A flame that slowly burns with a creeping fear that the end has come once and for all. But there's also the burning fire of faith, a burning flame that keeps hope for humanity alive, a light against the darkness. And there's certainly hope for the Empire, as the most recently elected Emperor shows great promise. Karl Franz, Elector Count of Reichland, Emperor of Man, rightful owner of Galmaraz, and Prince of Altdorf, takes up the throne and now commands the vast armies of humankind at the front lines.
Well, you guys also pointed out just how much more interesting Karl Franz is as like a character compared to the Emperor in 40k. He actually does things for pretty good reasons, and I mean, being in a world or a universe like this, sometimes you have to make sacrifices for the greater good. But I think from what you guys said, he does it with a heavy heart. I'd be very interested to learn just more about his character, and you know, I might connect with him if he's compelling enough. Also, I'd like to add that the narration on this video is absolutely top-notch. Like, it's so fitting for the setting and I guess the lore itself.
But he is not only in total union, and
being like an infantry unit and getting run over by something like this would be just horrible. I think Total War just kind of has that aspect of an elaborate game of rock, paper, scissors, yeah? Like there are just some units that are going to be much more effective against certain other units, and then your battles are decided by how many winning pairs you have, essentially. Of course, there's more to it than that, but that's just like breaking it down to the bare bones basics of the game as I understand it. And so far, I feel like the Empire's units are basically what you would expect from any human faction, really. But of course, we also have a little bit of magic and a little bit of technology on our side. But I don't think our tech is as good as the Dwarves would be, yeah? Or actually, I think the Skaven also are really high tech. That's kind of their thing.
Cowards. Hiding in the
Dwarves.
deepest, darkest places.
The Book of Grudges, yeah.
Fools. Every wrong is recorded. Every slight against us. Page after page, etched in blood.
when men hid in
How
caves,
big is that book?
embracing life-saving fire and battling with wood and rock, the proud dwarfs built kingdoms within the mountains. From the depths of the world, they took everything they ever wanted, and like rivers did gold, silver, gems, and star metal flow. Their armor was impenetrable, and their weapons could sunder the heavens, and even the unending hordes of Greenskins could do them no harm.
I'm sorry, but like with that kind of description, like the weapons that can sunder the heavens, and then it's walking at you at like what, at that pace with its little stubby legs. I'm sorry, like I think I enjoy playing the dwarves because I do like, I guess, more defensive game plans. But yeah, I'm probably gonna laugh every single time I see like dwarves charging at me. But I'd also probably end up dead. And oh yeah, I think you guys also said in the comments that the dwarves and the elves just really don't like each other, which I feel like is a common fantasy thing.
Against the mighty elves did they fight in a war of apocalyptic scale, and when the conflict was over, disaster struck. The mountains
the reason why we hate each other.
Volcanoes came to life, as if the world was revolted for being exploited relentlessly by mortal hands. And then they came. Floods of Greenskins and Skaven that took over dwarf hold after dwarf hold when they were most vulnerable. And now, their kingdom as they built it is no more. The golden age of the dwarfs is over. It has been that way for a long time now, and their glory days only a memory sung in sagas and told in legends. But through grit and determination, they soldier on to this day, surviving, for it is what they know best. Mankind has taken the place of the elves and dwarfs of old as rulers and inhabitants of the old world. In the mighty hold of Karazakarak, thunder can be heard, but it comes not from the heavens. It comes from underground, as the dwarfs march to war once again to reclaim their glory. And at the head of the throng is King Thorgrim Grudgebearer.
Grudgebearer. Yeah. I think he holds a few grudges.
A legendary hero of countless battles and High King of the Dwarfs. Wielder of the axe of legendary Grimnir, protected by the ancestor gods themselves. The High King has the duty to reclaim what is rightfully his and of his king. The great book of grudges is full, and ancient grudges that have waited too long are bound to be settled. The slayers flock to march to meet their destiny, and leading them is the Slayer King of Karak Kadrin, Ungrim Ironfist, wielding a great axe and cloaked in the hide of a mighty draconic beast.
This guy looks really badass, and I mean, just peep the mohawk. If you saw him coming at you, like, you know, he might be half your size, but you know he's gonna cut you in half too. Another thing I picked up from the comments is that there are also, like, I guess these apocalyptic events too that happen depending on how you set them in your settings in the game and whatnot. So I'm gonna guess that, like, the Grudge Bearer, or well, the Book of Grudges thing, there's gonna be some sort of event that can trigger where the dwarves are like, you know what, that's enough. It is what it is. I'm here to collect the debt. And they probably spawn like a ton of dwarven armies in order to take back everything that has been done wrong to them. That feels like a pretty good lore reason to have an apocalyptic event that has to do with the dwarves.
On short legs they march, and with them comes vengeance made
short legs
manifest.
They march. Yeah,
Proud
true.
by nature, most dwarf formations use a simple but effective axe and shield, or two-handed axe, for indeed
You got
they are
flamethrowers?
old-fashioned.
Just noticed.
But not only a dwarf and his axe make for a fearsome warrior and a valuable addition to any army, they are often accompanied by a throng of the greatest and most effective artillery in the world to support them.
Okay.
They are
Artillery,
slow and
best in the game
such,
probably.
Their battle tactics are quite defensive. Lines of quarrelers, wielding the trustworthy crossbow, pepper the enemies with bolts, and thunderers unleash their deadly fire upon anything without a beard. With the exception of the...
Anything without a beard? Oh no. Here's an important question. Do dwarven women exist? And do they have beards? I need to know this.
The rangers, who are equipped for scouting, and the slayers, who are destined to seek a glorious death on the battlefield. All dwarfs carry very heavy armor when compared to other armies, and even the lowliest of warriors is clad in thick metal.
I would imagine that as a dwarf player, you'd get countered so hard if the enemy army has some sort of unit that has like armor penetration, or I guess like armor destruction or whatever.
Dwarfs spit at magic and consider it foul play, so they use runes. An interesting and quite effective workaround. Accompanying the runes comes a great assortment of field engineers, who help the war machines work around the clock, delivering death and vengeance with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine.
Okay, that's interesting. I thought they didn't use magic because they couldn't. Because like, I think I saw a few comments talking about how they would literally get turned to stone if they used it or whatever. But it's been a while and I might be wrong on that one. But I do know that they can use magic. They just kind of imbue it into stones and use them as like rune weapons and whatnot.
For centuries, they have stood like rocks against their enemies, and they plan to do so once again, as their kingdom is set to collapse once and for all. The stubbornness of the dwarfs is to be truly tested with the coming tribulations.
This fell deed has been entered into the Damaskron, and the cover slammed shut in rage. By my oath, it shall not
He's
be
carried
opened
around by
until
4
the
other
grudge is
dwarves. Heck
settled,
yeah, dude.
until the bones are smashed to powder.
Imagine riding that into battle. Alright, the Greenskins.
When the fury of the Greenskins descends upon the land, it leaves nothing behind, save for total destruction and ruin. Any standing structures are burned and broken up for raw materials. Crops are trampled, livestock eaten, and rivers churned to mud. The size and destructive nature of a greenskin horde means that it needs to keep moving in order to survive. Otherwise, it would soon exhaust the local supplies of food and water, and then, inevitably, turn upon itself.
They have to continue pillaging.
For this
and conquering.
reason, a powerful and capable war boss must always lead the tribes from battle to keep the momentum going, traveling wherever there's fighting to be had, and fresh lands to raid, and no place, no matter how hidden or well protected it may be, is ever safe from the reach of the Greenskins. In the order of Greenskin life, the strong rule over the weak. All of them are drawn to fight alongside a powerful war boss who can lead their tribes from victory to victory. Capable of leading entire tribes from battle to battle are the Black Orcs. They are the largest, strongest, and most ferocious of all the Greenskins. They are elite warriors of a brutal race of creatures who live to fight, and amongst their number, there is no meaner and tougher war boss than Grimgor Ironhide. From the day Grimgor was first seen, he hadn't stopped fighting and conquering. No rival war boss can stand before his might, and few dare to fall under the gaze of his one good eye. As the world burns in the flames of conflict.
One good eye. Actually, before we continue, I wonder if there might be some sort of lore connection to a different leader. Somebody who, like, took out his eye, and so he might have, like, a personal grudge against them, maybe? It could be a good, like, story bit, but maybe not. Maybe he just lost it in battle.
Greenskins are more eager than ever to find a good scrap. there are signs that Grimgor is mustering the biggest war the world has ever seen.
The biggest wow.
Skarsnik, who has long been fighting in one of the bloodiest conflicts known in the Warhammer world, the War of Karak 8 Peaks, is now marching his war into a path of war and destruction above and beyond the ground and the mountains.
I hate squigs. You guys who watch our Space Marine playthrough know that.
Grom the Paunch, the largest and most powerful goblin warlord to ever live, is also mustering a mighty army of goblins and other nasty creatures. Too many and too varied to count. The hulking goblin warlord is considered to be the only greenskin to have ever made a successful greenskin invasion against the distant lands of Ulthuan, and is now looking for the world to plunder and crush under his whip. Fear grows through all lands, as thousands of mighty war bosses from across the world are seeking more foes where the battles are the bloodiest. Who will lead the most successful war to roam the earth? One thing is for sure though, the orcs and goblins are sure to find what they are looking for in this heated campaign of immortal empires.
Oh god. Well, if you can't beat him, join him maybe.
Dreadfully
Who knows?
they march, and fearful is their form, for there is no other way of being for the undead.
Alright, so for the vampire accounts, yeah, I've seen a lot of discussions around how they play, and yeah, it's basically like protect the leader, right? Like all the zombies that they control are pretty mindless, they kind of don't rout, and they don't break easily because, well, they're dead. But if the necromancer dies, then it's just pretty much all over. So to counter it, you could probably send some sort of assassin unit or just send up your hero unit or whatever to go and take them out. But I guess you also have your own ways to protect yourself as the vampire account.
In the cursed lands of Sylvania dwells an evil without equal. Those who seek to annihilate the living and supplant them with an empire of undead creatures under their command. These are vampires and necromancers, life forms that should not exist at all. Patient, cunning, devious. The vampires work to conquer the lands of the living with ancient and corrupted sorcery, bringing the dead to life again, but bound to their will.
I am here, mortal, and I bring your end.
These Spectre Knights are really cool.
Valheim will soon fall, and the rest of your pathetic cities will follow.
Oh yeah, there's also the giant bat thing walks around. I think it
Sylvania itself is a
slapped
province
somebody
of
in
the
the
Empire,
cinematic trailers.
at least officially. To the east of Stirland and south of Ostermark, sandwiched between the two and the world's edge mountains, the kingdom of the Dwarfs, who are fundamentally opposed to the art of necromancy.
I mean, yeah.
It is a
I think
grim
most
and
people would
grey
be.
place, a haunted province that seems to be forgotten by the gods. There is a vampire who stands above all others in might, significance, and in megalomaniacal splendor. Vlad von Carstein, he who waged war on the greatest empire of the old world, and very nearly took the throne, the hammer, and the crown, and truthfully brought it to its knees before a thief, the lowliest of professions, stole the ring that granted him immortality,
Really?
and vanished with it, never to be seen again.
Who is this thief?
Vlad was defeated
damn.
so long ago, but now In the reign of Emperor Karl Franz, he is back. He has lost no desire for dominance. Alongside his beloved Isabella von Karstein, he once more raises the undead and marches to retake what he feels is his by right of conquest. For the
True
strong
love in
take
Warhammer.
and the weak serve, be it dead or alive. In the field of battle they feel no fear, but instead they bestow it upon others. Indeed, although there are many a deadly form of unlife in the armies of the vampire counts, their main weapon is dread itself. As naught but the strongest of hearts will stand in front of a line of their loved ones stolen from sweet death, or a phalanx of mighty warriors from the time that Sigmar walked the earth, or monsters untold, man-eaters of all forms. The Counts make use of the artful craft known as necromancy. This all comes together as a cacophony that brings shivers to the spines of all, and breaks stone upon a tidal wave of corpses vile. Those that fall to the undead armies soon rise again, where once stood defiant enemy soldiers fighting against the undead hordes. Now stand the twitching corpse puppets of a morbid fiend.
Yeah, that was something that I commented on in the first cinematic trailer, where it felt like it would be pretty OP. The fact that you could, replenish your troops after a battle. Well, assuming you had won the battle, of course. But that's definitely limited by some sort of, necromancy or magic currency.
Animated by the dark arts of necromancy. The dead do not rest easy. They are now marching to take over the world.
Brave corpses will make a fine addition to my army.
When death alone is certain, how can the living possibly hope to prevail? The children of chaos, or else known as the Beastmen, are present in almost all places of the world, hiding under the shadows and always stalking their prey. They are ready to go to war. United under a massive bray herd, they run with deep hatred, seeking only to bring ruin and an age of slaughter. When the thunderous and incomprehensible energies of the raw powers of chaos were unbounded by the breaking of the polar gates, doom fell upon the world. In the darkness and the instability that brought the unleashed chaos energies, the primitive humans of the world and the beasts of the forests blended in unnatural ways.
This image is horrifying, but extremely cool. But yeah, it makes sense why a lot of them are represented as, I guess, goats mixed with men. But I'm sure that there's a ton of other, weird combinations, since they're also talking about how, it's just beasts ended up mixing with men in just the most absurd combos.
Into the eerie woods, a warped progeny was born.
Whoa.
The Beastmen.
Yeah.
Howling as wild beasts, but with the intelligence of a primitive man.
What even is that thing?
The twisted existence of the Beastmen is distant from any life form created by the natural flow of things. The most common breeds carry a goat or a bull head above their abominable bodies. The horns grow from a hard brow. The muscled cattle legs carry a man-like upper body as their cloven hooves trample the ground. The strongest and most brutal of beasts within the herd moves to be the apex predator, the chieftain or wargore of the pack. They care not how their underlings are fed or how disputes are settled. The only thing a wargore concerns himself with is with battle. Many legendary characters have been known to lead entire Bray herds into battle, including Kazrak, the One-Eye, Malagor, the Dark Omen, Morgur, the Shadowgave, or Torox, the Brass Bull. Just as the chieftain seeks the leader of the enemy army to slay, the Bray shamans know no greater pleasure than hunting and butchering the priests of man in the field of battle, and then laying waste to their altars. With malign intent, they lead innumerable tribes of mutated creatures. Thousands of warherds exist across the entire world, many hidden deep in dark forests,
amount of bodies
while
flying,
some
my
others
god.
live in caves, mountains, or other hidden places. As the world is shaken to its core by the upcoming conflict of immortal empires, entire warherds are mobilizing to war, plundering and consuming all in their path.
So excited to play this game.
The Beastmen are amongst the most savage of all races in the Warhammer world, and they surely are a unique faction that seeks only to kill and destroy, to show mankind that they are the true predators at the top of the food chain. Bellowing, braying, and screaming, the Cloven Ones sound their brash horns as they quickly cover ground. The beast horde has opened its jaws, ready to consume all civilizations, and is now roaming far and wide.
I mean, the Beastmen seem pretty cool, but I don't think it would be a faction that I particularly enjoy playing. I mean, there's definitely an appeal of, like, going in and just messing everything up. Not really caring about the consequences, or really the results, to be honest. But I mean, like, why would I play the Beastmen over, like, one of the other Chaos factions? I mean, the Beastmen aren't exactly a Chaos faction, right? I mean, they are, but they're not, like, directly worshipping any particular Chaos god. At least, that's what I think. Wood Elves.
For thousands of years, the Wood Elves have lived in harmony with the sentient forest of Athel-Loren. They crave nothing so much as to be left alone, to tend of the forest in peace. The Wood Elves care little for the outside world. But when the fate of the nearby lands threatens Athel-Loren, they stride to war alongside the full might of the forest.
I'm like almost 100% certain that they get like buffs if they're fighting in like a wooded area, because that's just kind of their thing, right? And I'm gonna assume that if you want to fight the Wood Elves in their own territory, you're gonna experience a lot of losses.
The Wood Elves are the masters of the bow, and it is said that an elven marksman can hit the eye of a goblin in the dark. They are slender and swift,
Very
with
classic
minds and
elves.
bodies that are capable of great dexterity, constantly honing their skills in an environment that challenges them every day of their lives. The Wood Elves are also supported by mighty tree men, colossal living trees that smash through the enemy lines
Okay,
with
they're
their
just called tree
gnarled
men?
fists, pulverizing all in their path. They are implacable, fearing neither pain nor death, for their bodies no longer have the ability to feel sensation. Ariel, the queen of the forest and one of the most powerful wizards in the world, is the avatar of Isha, the ancient elven goddess of nature. And when the realm of the Wood Elves is threatened, Orion is the first to fight in its defense. The demigod Orion
That's one
is the
buff
king
Wood Elf.
of Athel-Loren. He dies in flame each year and is reborn anew each spring.
Thematic.
Upon finding and settling upon the magical forest, many elves learned the art of tree singing and learned to speak with the life essence of the trees, whispering and listening to the spirits of that sacred place. It was then that the elves, always respectful of all things natural, truly embraced Athel-Loren as their home.
We even got a dragon.
Unlike most other races, the Wood Elves have never sought to become rulers of the world. Instead, they wish only to see their homeland persist through the ages. This is the main cause for which they have to fight, for no land endures
protect
long
their forests.
if it cannot take up arms against those who wish to harm it. As much as the Wood Elves have no interest in the affairs of other nations and races, they are aware that the fate of Athelloren and their survival as a race is tied to that of other lands. As the Wood Elves seek to survive the darkest season of Athelloren, they guard the forest realm against invaders who seek to destroy their woodland home.
The Wild Hunt begins!
Only Wild Hunt I know is from The Witcher 3, but I'm also gonna assume that the Wild Hunt might be some sort of event or some sort of buff for the Wood Elves, that they would get like more attack or like maybe bonus movement speed, and you'd get it's pretty much like the Wood Elves are gonna come out and get you. But I think elves are cool, and the tree men seem pretty interesting. I just wonder how well they actually fare in combat when they're outside of the forest. Here it is, Bretonnia. I mistook the High Elves for Bretonians. I'm still sorry about
Bretonnia. Land of knights, chivalry, feudalism, trebuchets, and the Lady of the Lake. A powerful and fertile land, whose peasants work tirelessly, both in the farms and in the battlefields. When the mighty Sigmar Heldenhammer came to create his empire, he asked the Bretonni, founding tribe of these lands, to join him, but they refused to be part of the new Empire of Man. Indeed, this powerful bastion of humanity has clashed with the Empire on more than one bloody occasion, as well as with the Wood Elves of Athelloren, who technically reside in righteous Bretonnian land.
Technically.
The current Royak of Bretonnia, Luan Leoncoeur, named Lionheart by the Lady of the Lake herself, commands respect from all dukes under his command. He is the Duke of Couronne, one of the mighty Grail Knights, and the penultimate warrior king of Bretonnia. Although minor border skirmishes between dukedoms and imperial provinces are inevitable, Luen is a friend of the Empire, and indeed a friend of Emperor Karl Franz himself.
That's good.
By his side stands
Humans
the
kind of
Fey
need all the help they need.
Enchantress, a powerful vessel to the Lady of the Lake, and Alberic de Bordelot, a mighty duke and worshipper of Manan, god of the sea, and together they seek to banish the forces of chaos from their lands.
Man, god
The
of the sea,
Bretonni
okay.
are courageous beyond doubt, and even the humble peasant turned man-at-arms, pulled away from home and hearth by war, spills his blood gladly for the lady and the land, with polearm and bow in hand. The solid core of a Bretonnian army is, however, its cavalry, for they are renowned across the old world and
I mean, they are
beyond as having the best
the
knights
Knights
around.
faction, right?
From the lowly knights errant
So it just makes
to
sense.
the vigorous Grail guardians, they are all death delivered on horseback. But that is not all, for the most accomplished amongst them take as their mounts an elegant and rare creature, the Pegasus, and with
Pegasus.
them they ride amongst the very winds. These brave warriors protect humanity against the growing evils of chaos and the constant menace presented by the orcs,
Why are their
goblins,
lances glowing?
Skaven, and other
Holy
monstrous
power?
creatures that threatens mankind's survival. In the direst of hours, the Knights of Bretonnia ride like an avalanche against the foe. They carry their honor and their strength, and no enemy shall stand before them.
Since their strength is their cavalry, I'm assuming that, like, there might be just a bunch of peasant units that are like the infantry who kind of hold the line just a little bit, and then you'd send the cavalry around to flank your enemy and probably get some sort of bonus from that. I feel like if that's kind of like the one-trick pony thing that they got going on, then if our enemy army has like a bunch of anti-cavalry units in them, then it might not be so good for us. But I'm sure they have their other ways to deal with something like that. I mean, it is based off Arthurian legend, right, Bretonnia? So maybe they even have their own dragon. But of course, they also have magic as well, so. The Norsca. The trailer for the Norsca is really epic.
That you fear the most.
I think these
Far
guys
to the
also
north
kind of like
of the
worship
old world,
chaos
in the
gods
blighted
too.
region known as the Chaos Wastes, dark energy bleeds from a gaping wound in the fabric of reality. Raging gales of energies howling down from the ancient ruins of the fallen Polar Gate, resting at the very heart of the northern Chaos Wastes, make their way into the world. Norsca is amongst the regions most affected by it, mainly because of its proximity to the Chaos Wastes. As such, no sane human being would be able to survive in this harsh wasteland. with
They're
their
all
sanity
crazy, gotcha.
intact. It is for this reason that most, if not all, the tribes of Norsca are affected to some extent by the power of chaos, causing their
Two-headed
flesh to
dragon?
warp and mutate
Heck yeah.
through the influences of their gods, and their minds to be plunged into the darkest depths of the most violent insanity.
I see.
The Northmen are barbarous and savage, worshipping outlandish gods and living lives that are altogether harsh and primitive. They have no time for plough or sickle, for their tools are the axe, the sword, and the shield.
mean,
What their own lands
you're gonna start a
cannot
farm
provide,
here?
they
do
simply
that.
take from the lands of lesser men by brute
Exactly.
force. Norsca and the Northlands is a grim and shadowy land where the weak do not live long, and living means a constant fight for survival, supremacy, and the chance to appease the gods. War among tribes is common in this giant, icy graveyard. To the Northmen, there is no greater honor than to fight and perish in the armies of chaos under the gaze of the gods. To become a mighty warrior, offering up the deaths of those they slay on the battlefield with each passing day. Though the vast majority die in the attempt, there will occasionally emerge a warrior strong and driven enough to be chosen by the gods as one of their champions. When chaos is ascendant, the men of the North are more willing to put aside their rivalries and disputes. As word spreads of a coming conflict, the tribes gather together in a great marauding horde under the command of a fell champion of chaos, who they will
Fell
follow
champion.
to the
Okay.
corners of the world in the name of conquest. Now, more than ever, they march forth, and the dreaded war horns of the North can be heard all across the world.
Yeah, getting crushed by a mammoth is not ideal. They're pretty cool.
High above the other races of the world, the High Elves are the most noble of all the creations of the Old Ones. They are one of the most powerful and ancient civilizations of the entire world. Nimble in combat, pristine when it comes to diplomacy, and wielders of powerful magic, they dominate their enchanted home continent of Ulthuan, and have influences far beyond and across the world.
Ulthuan was the place where they said the Paunch dude was like one of the first Greenskins to ever be able to invade. So I guess it's not going too good at the moment. Kind of interested in the ancestry thing as well? As in, like, are the Wood Elves related to the High Elves? Because I know that what were they called? Were they just Dark Elves? They kind of like split off from the High Elves and like kind of worship different gods too. But yeah, like, what about the Wood Elves?
The climax of the first invasion of chaos, the elves were the ones that created the Great Vortex, and with it, they casted the excess energies of chaos out of the world, effectively saving it.
Oh, okay, that's the vortex that we see in the background sometimes in some of the cinematic trailers. So it casts out chaos energy and kind of, I guess, regulates it. Because chaos is something that is like constantly trying to corrupt all the lands, right?
A long time ago, the race of the elves was united as one, and there were no dark, high, or wood elf, but only a single kingdom. Eventually, a bloody civil war raged amongst them by the betrayal of Malekith, and the race of the elves was forever divided.
Malekith is one of the leaders in the Dark Elves, yeah? I think he was the guy with the mask.
They waged a war of epic proportions with the Dwarfs, in the conflict known as the War of the Beard. Thousands upon thousands of lives were lost for both factions, and the bloodshed was terrible. In the end, the elves were driven off the old world, and the dwarfs went back to the mountains after the earth shook to its core.
I see.
Tyrion and Teclis, brothers in blood and in arms, sail forth to expand the interests of Ulthuan and ready their defenses in the continent. While Teclis is an extremely renowned mage, Tyrion is, perhaps, the best sword fighter alive. Their might is rivaled by none, and together they fight for the fate of the race of the High Elves.
I see. Pick your leader, whether you want them to be magic or
a mighty
physical based.
To behold in the field of battle, for they are some of the finest craftsmen in the world and masterful warriors. Extremely versatile, they have a solid line holding infantry, spear and archer hybrid, pristine marksmen, rivaled only by their brothers of Athaloran, and devastating cavalry, their breeds of horses being so good it makes Bretonian nobles blush with shame.
Damn.
And, of course, they are able to bond with and ride mighty dragons onto the direst of conflicts. Elven mages are quite deadly and versatile casters, not to mention their sheer centuries of experience with the ever-shifting winds of magic. With their magical attunement comes great beings known as phoenixes, who commit great deeds of elemental slaughter in the name of their mage masters.
Great deeds of elemental slaughter.
A well-organized army of high elves acts as a symphony of destruction against any foe that dares to threaten the safety of Ulthuan or the elves. Even outside of the field of battle and on the negotiating table, they are something to be feared and admired for, as the schemes that go on inside high elven courts are worthy of the greatest of poems.
You know, the High Elves were presented in a much more interesting way than I would have thought they would be. Because, I mean, like, High Elves in fantasy is just a really typical thing. But, I mean, I like dragons, and riding dragons is pretty cool. But, like, come on now, can you really beat out Lizardmen riding dinosaurs? I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to try them out. Well, that depends if... Yeah, I should be able to. It's Total War Warhammer 2, right? Where they get introduced. Yeah, maybe we'll try them out and see what I think.
Isolated in their dark and cold continent of Nagaroth, the murderous prowess and cruel wickedness of the Dark Elves knows no equals and bounds.
The Dark Elves have a Hydra, though. That's pretty cool. They watch the rest
of the world with alert and opportunistic eyes, ever looking for a chance to have vengeance and reclaim what is theirs.
Like, look at that.
When they draw their swords,
that's
one
so
thing is
cool.
bound to happen. Blood will flow, either from their enemies or from their slaves. They rule
Damn.
the cold seas with their mighty black arcs as they bring terror to every shore of the world, no matter how distant.
It's like some sort of battleship.
It happened that long ago. Malekith tried to take Ulthuan and the title of Phoenix King for himself. But the flames of Azurian rejected him in the ritual, consuming him in pain. He was taken away by his followers to be saved, as Malekith was heavily burned and wounded.
So that's why he wears the
was healed
mask.
by his mother, the great sorceress Morathi, whose beauty is unparalleled.
I mean... After watching that Pancreas No Work video, I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. The Hydra itself just kind of sells me on the Dark Elves. And Morathi is a very nice bonus.
After he recovered, his appearance seemed to reflect his dark and foul soul. Now, many years later, they alone bear rule of the mighty Dark Elves.
Actually,
And
that's an
seek
interesting
dominion
question.
over
Is he even wearing a
everyone
mask?
and everything,
Or is that just how he
especially
looks
their
like?
hated cousins of Ulthuan.
Also,
And
this
they
picture
march
is very
onwards
nice.
to war, to reclaim what is rightfully theirs.
Definitely tons of lore battle between the Dark Elves and High Elves.
When the Dark Elves march, the world trembles, for it comes as an army of dread that revels in the boundless joys of battle. A Dark Elf army is something to behold and fear, for
Here
their
it
infantry
is.
is versatile
Look at
and
it.
fast.
Comes in
And their
multiple different
monsters,
colors too.
fueled by cruelty and malice, know no bound to their savagery. Their repeater crossbows are deadly, and rain black bolts
Repeater
against their victims
crossbows.
from afar, no matter how well armored.
I feel like they would kind of be the equivalent of the like Eldar in 40k, so they'd
The
focus a lot on
unfortunate
speed.
survivors that get captured after every battle or raid are taken away in chains to the far lands of Nagaroth. to
this is
work
what the
as
Eldar do,
slaves
yeah.
And never
I mean,
to
the
be
Dark
seen
Eldar.
again. Their martial prowess is mighty, and their warriors are among the best fighters in the world. For every Dark Elf is highly trained and experienced. When they get their blood flowing after prolonged battles, their skill gets even better, as they tend
Dude,
to enjoy the art
that
of
dragon
fighting
also looks really
and
cool.
get into a state of flow with it. Hydras and other beasts are whipped into battle, and even mighty dragons are not free from being abused into fighting for their cruel masters.
Everybody's abused. No.
Their vast dominion over the seas is imposed by the use of cruel corsairs and black arcs. Entire strongholds, fighting with the power of dark magic, who are able to fire deep within the sea into land battles, reinforce armies on the go, and even carry uncountable slaves to do
Really?
the dirty work.
Wait, so you can send in like artillery strikes if you're like say fighting a battle that's near a coastline and you have some sort of like ship near you? Is that like a separate unit, or is that like just an army thing when they go out on the ocean? I don't know.
And wicked Dark Elves. The Dark Elves now see the state of the world as the perfect opportunity to strike and reclaim their land and have vengeance in the process. Will the Dark Elves achieve what they have been plotting for hundreds of years? Or will they need to form unlikely alliances to fight even greater enemies?
Oh, wait a minute. Unlikely alliances to fight even greater enemies. They don't exactly worship the Chaos Gods, right? They have their own god that they worship. Imagine that. The Dark Elves and the High Elves, could they form an alliance somehow? In order to fight against the actual forces of chaos, the actual baddies? That would be pretty cool.
From
Here
the
we
massive
go,
jungle
Lizardmen!
continent of Lastria, the Lizardmen guard their sacred temples, and they are
which
on a
faction's my
permanent
favorite.
quest of finding and interpreting the long-lost plaques of their race. Clues that point to the world order set many ages ago by the Old Ones, the creators of it all. When the polar gate collapsed and the demons crossed over the bridge into the mortal plane, the Slan promptly united their psychic might to seal off the portals in an attempt to hold back the coming of chaos.
Zeech.
Alas, half of them were crushed by the shattering, mind-breaking force during their colossal effort. The survivors of the initial assault turned to their creators for guidance.
Look at them, man.
Only to find them
Looks so
vanished
cool.
from the planet. The Old Ones had departed, leaving their creations behind and the world to its fate. Through the ages, as the most ancient of races, they have stood defiant against the encroaching darkness that seems to come for them and the entire world alike. Theirs is the sacred duty of protecting and securing the world against the primordial enemy and to cleanse the taint of chaos from all the lands.
Heck yeah.
The cold-blooded reptilians do not fight for power, territory, or any other petty cause. As the ultimate enemies of the dark gods and the forces of chaos, the Lizardmen act as a single-minded force of destruction that will stop at nothing
artwork
to
is
halt
so
the presence
cool.
of the ruinous powers
So
or
nice.
any other foe that interferes with the fulfilling of the great plan. Now that the final battle for the world is upon them, they unite as a truly destructive force to be reckoned with. After all, a large portion of the population of their race was spawned for the sole purpose of warfare and violent combat, to protect the world from destruction and erase any threat to the creation. The forces of the Lizardmen are formed by diverse species that excel in different abilities. They bear no emotion and are fueled by primal instincts. These cold-blooded killers are by design disciplined and focused creatures that act perfectly as a united force. The Lizardmen are the true
There's the Doom
inheritors of
guy,
the planet.
apparently.
Their sacred duty is to fulfill the great plans of the mysterious beings known as the Old Ones, and to eradicate all who get in their way. Since they were created, they have been at the forefront of the battle for the world's survival.
Lizardmen, definitely the faction that, well, it depends on which faction is, I guess, easier to learn the game with, but, like, I really want to play the Lizardmen. They just seem cool. I can get behind their cause. I like their style. It just works.
The Skaven are a malevolent
Skaven.
race of rat men that lurk.
I remember not being, like, too impressed at first about the concept of ratmen, but then they had, like, a lot of really interesting units. They also literally have, like, mad scientists, and, like, as the mad scientist VTuber, I feel like I can't escape this fate of, playing the Skaven. I can kind of get behind their gameplay, right? They have like swarm tactics, but there's also like different clans that do specialize in different things. And dropping a nuke on my enemies does sound very appealing. For me, while the Lizardmen have that cool factor to them, the Skaven seem to have that fun factor. Just absolute chaos. And is definitely a faction that I'm looking out for.
In the shadows and the deepest of tunnels. They watch, wait, and scheme, biding their time until the moment comes when they will rise up from the bowels of the world and claim the entirety of the surface for themselves. There is no land unspoiled by this foul race, with the sole exception of the enchanted continent of Ulthuan, the inhabitants of which go to extreme measures to maintain the incantation required to avoid such infestation.
Probably
It
for
is
the
said
best.
that their vast empire stretches for untold miles beneath the earth. Their society is divided into several great clans, each ruled by a powerful Skaven collectively known as the Lords of Decay. Most of the time they are said to fight amongst themselves, like the rabid rats they are. But sometimes they set their bickerings aside and wage against other inhabitants of the world.
When that happens,
When
you
the
got a
rat
problem.
host goes to battle, they muster the innumerable hordes of the warlord clans and their machines and beasts of battle. Each of the greater clans has its own armaments and foul methods to wage war. The clan known as Molder are powerful beastmasters and use magical warpstone to breed and mutate ferocious fighting
Moldar.
beasts. Clan Eshin are feared assassins and stealthy murderers. It is said that no one can escape their reach. Clan Scryer are known as warlock engineers, masters of an insane blend of magic and science. Clan Pestilens are also known as the Plague Monks. They are disciples of disease and initiates of infection. As instructed by their god, the Plague Monks are dedicated to spreading pestilence and plague amongst the cities
That must
of
be
men.
really annoying to play against.
There are many warlords amongst the Skaven. Cowards, all of them. But perhaps there is one who betrays that notion. Queek Headtaker, amongst the beings cited in the Great Book of Grudges. There are few who rival this warlord of Clan Moors. And he
Damn.
fights with vermin blood over the lordship of Karak 8 Peaks.
This is on the top of the Book of
But
Grudges.
his ambition knows no limits, and his armies deface the earth. Notable, too, is a leader of Clan Pestilence armies, Lord Skrulk, a blighted being who harms the universe with his mere existence, and his presence defiles the souls of men and beyond. But they are too, perhaps, some of the best inventors amongst
Harm the
all of the
universe
races,
just by
and
existing.
their weaponry uses warpstone as fuel and ammo, having devastating effects, rending armor and flesh alike.
Rending armor and flesh.
Monsters are kin to the vermin, and they march together at the tip of a barbed whip and worse. Who is the one to tell where the Skaven will surface next? Can a hero rise and contain these foul beings? Or will they drown the world in an unstoppable vermintide?
Vermintide. That is another game that we're going to be playing.
There was once
The
a time
Tomb
when
Kings! A lot of people are fans of the Tomb Kings. I still need to do a video on the leader of the Tomb Kings. But when that giant skeleton walked out of the sandstorm and shot lasers out of his eyes, I was like, you know what? The Tomb Kings are really interesting.
the ancient kingdom of Nehekara stood as the crown of the human civilization of the world. A golden age when its cities shone with majestic splendor, its armies conquered entire nations, and its kings ruled as living gods among men. But this great realm was razed millennia ago through treachery and sorcery. The living perished in an instant, and the dead
did
rose
it?
from their tombs. This is the land of the dead, where mummified kings are cursed to rule in a living death. They feel no fear, they have no mercy, and over the sands of time and death they rule. Kings of empires thousands of years old rise again to make true the wishes of nigh forgotten
That is
gods.
really cool, actually.
Indeed, among the Tomb Kings
Levitating
stand
pyramid.
individuals so powerful, so influential in their conquests, that they can be rivaled only by beings such as Sigmar Heldenhammer or Anarion the Phoenix King. And they stand on the annals of time as gods amongst mortals.
Our true king will show them.
Yeah.
We do not
The Tomb Kings. They are to be respected. Here it is. Man. Whoever thought of that should get a promotion.
There is no doubt who amongst the undead is the King of Kings. When he raises his hand, it is to command the incredibly vast armies of the Tomb Kings, and even mountains crumble beneath his will of iron. Cetra the Imperishable, Great Unifier,
Cetra.
Opener of the Way, the
Need to know more about him.
undisputed Master of all horizons, Mighty Emperor of the Sands, God Tamer, and owner of 1,000 more titles.
Did they
When the
just say
King
God
of
Tamer?
Kings goes to war, the world
What god did he
quakes in
tame?
fear. Long ago he expanded an empire as far as the sun touched, and he was the greatest king of men. But that time has long ago passed, and now he is back to reclaim it all.
Their aesthetic is just
In
peak.
battle, their warriors march with unrelenting will in the face of everything, ready to take what is rightfully theirs. It is known that the true and outstanding element of any Tomb King army is their constructs. Warriors who long ago were honored to be buried in giant ritualistic statues, who then came to life with their souls. Sphinxes, Ushapti, tomb scorpions, and the dreaded Aero Titans crush their enemies as they advance in the field of battle, conquering all in the name of their masters.
Damn.
Rising from their sarcophagi, the mummified Tomb Kings possessed the same thirst for conquest that drove them in life, and their innumerable servants are fully devoted to their kings. They now fight to restore their vast empires to its former majesty, striking forth from the desert to reclaim the world of the living.
Tomb Kings? Watching out for them. I really think I'd enjoy playing them. I just from like the story and honestly the aesthetic mostly. Ah, here we go. Vampire Coast. These guys.
Located in the
know about
eastern
them,
shore of the continent
how I feel
of
about it,
Lustria, and facing
but
the great
I
ocean,
think it'd be fun.
the Vampire Coast has become a place of constant war between the Lizardmen and the undead.
Ah,
The pirate
We play
king,
Lizardmen, we're gonna
known
have to
as
fight them.
Luther Harkin, has made the coast his domain.
I think in this guy's trailer, we kind of saw him stumble upon like a Lizardman temple, whatever. He found some sort of artifact and it affected him and kind of split his mind or something. You guys are telling me like his personality, his two personalities living inside of him? I guess to simplify that, this dude's crazy.
Terrorizes the seas in search of new servants to put under his command. His mind is an insane mix of personalities, all blending into each
There you go.
without warning, and sparking the bold and unpredictable actions of the Pirate King for which he is known for.
Unpredictable.
Under his command, the undead hordes continue to swell their ranks with every passing day, and their quest for power continues. Luther Harkin faces opposition from the Lizardmen and other races that inhabit Lustria and the high seas, but armed with a mighty and numerous army, the Pirate King and his followers continue to terrorize the Vampire Coast and the Great Ocean. With every battle won and every temple ravaged, Luther Harkin grows his roots deeper in the realm of the Lizardmen, expanding their withering blight through the Vampire Coast and beyond. With time, the Lizardmen have pushed back, only to be attacked again by the undead hordes in a war without a visible end.
Like, look at
But
that in the
as
background.
the world comes to a conflict of
walking on
scales
legs.
never before seen, the forces of the Vampire Coast will have
That's
to
just such a fun
fight
idea.
to defend their hard-won territory, and will even have to make unlikely alliances if they are to survive and play a part in the upcoming tribulations. When facing the enemy, the undead hurl themselves into battle
Interesting.
like mindless.
I don't know if it's like a game thing, but this man, when he walks around, he just twitches his head all over the place. Maybe that's kind of a sign showing how like batshit insane he is. But yeah, it could just be a game thing.
Hordes trying to overrun their foe. However, the mariners' love for their guns carries into their afterlife. The deck gunners are known to use a wide variety of corroded weapons with questionable accuracy.
Questionable
But the sheer
accuracy.
power of these long-ranged firearms have killed many overconfident foes.
Who cares, right? Your entire army is built of like zombies and undead, and if a few of them die in the
The
crossfire,
Depth
then
Guard is an
it is
elite
what it is.
infantry of the Vampire Coast.
Ooh.
Blood Knight warriors, one and all. They are
Dude,
hand-picked
their
by their
armor's
masters
sick.
and given the blood kiss, rather than being simply raised from the dead like zombies.
Wait, what are those?
Clad in eldritch armor, they are an
I think we saw them
unstoppable
in one of
force
the
on the
trailers.
field of battle,
They're like the
unrelenting
zombies
in their
without
advance.
legs.
The
Just
high
really
seas,
big.
the lands of
big
Lustria
dudes.
and beyond are all for the taking of the Pirate King and the endless hordes of undead.
Cool. Like their concept. Seems fun. But chaos, though.
Mankind does not
wouldn't mind playing for
recognize
chaos.
its doom.
Painful death.
The dark
wonder
gods
what
are
mild
now
means
here
for
to
you.
harvest it all and make the world their own hellish battleground, for their appetites are vast and their power almighty. Vast storm, and by their motherland they will emerge victorious, or they will die in the snow. The very mountains themselves shake to their core, for even the world itself knows that the end is nigh. The wild and feral creatures that roam the high peaks, and the ones that hide in the darkness of the deepest of caves alike, they are all sensing the shift in the winds, and are becoming more wrathful. Increased volcanic activity can be felt all across the entire mountain range. It is very well known that the mountains of Morn are rife with volcanoes and occasional eruptions, but it seems now that the world is shaking from within. Smoke rises incessantly across the mountains, and the clouds above the lands of the ogres are now dark. Dark whispers and unsettling echoes can be heard over the valleys, and as the creatures increase their attacks to satiate their bloodlust, the ogres are drawn to defend their homeland from the rising tide of chaos. A few tribes have now pledged their allegiance to the dark gods. With promises of food, plunder, and riches, they have abandoned their homes and traveled north, disappearing into the growing storms. The majority of the Ogre Kingdoms, however, would fight against chaos and any other force that would threaten their existence. Croesus Goldtooth, the over-tyrant of the Ogre Kingdoms, knows that the time of feasting has ended, that the time for war is now.
I think one of you guys said that Grease's Goldtooth here, There was a bug upon its release or something where his base speed was extremely high, so it was just this massive dude just flying across the screen. I wish I could have seen that. That would have been really funny. But I think in another comment, someone also said that apparently if you get like digested by an ogre, like you'd even die if you were like a chaos demon. That's just how powerful their stomachs are. I think you guys are referring to the ogres, but I could be wrong.
As the caves collapse and ancient rock formations crumble, as the earth shakes and the volcanoes spit their fire and rage to the sky, the ogres mobilize for war. A great migration has begun for the ogres, and the consequences will be felt by all civilizations of the world.
It's an interesting creature. It's not exactly a mammoth.
Get here! Now, we're gonna swallow him whole, chew on his eyeballs, and throw his nads into the fire now!
Heck yeah.
Right, let's get to it!
I don't know. They could be fun. Not exactly on the top of my list to play, but...
To the far east of the world, beyond the Dark Lands, across the mountains of Morn, in the vast territories of Grand Cathay, there is a concerning imbalance in the air that can be felt by immortals and all
their leaders can turn into
dragons
dragons.
Throughout
This is
history,
cool.
the lands of Grand Cathay have been attacked on innumerable
They also have like
occasions,
giant warriors
damaged,
made out of stone
and
or
even
jade
sometimes
or whatever.
breached. But still, the Great Bastion stands as a powerful vanguard against the forces of the Dark Gods, as it is constantly maintained and garrisoned by massive armies. But now, even that seems to not be enough to stop the coming storm of death and fire that approaches. The harmony of the Cathayan way of life is ever present, their forces acting in concert with deadly efficiency to lay waste to the armies of chaos that constantly assail them. But the calm that characterizes Grand Cathay is facing the greatest of threats, as chaos is ascending like never before, and the creatures from the warp now walk the world, threatening to devour it all. As the drums of war sound across the land, chaos influence grows from within, and the dark armies amass before the Great Bastion. Grand Cathay is bound to face its biggest challenge yet. The defense of the realm, the future of Grand Cathay and the world lies in their hands. The burden is heavy, and the dark portents that choke the land are undeniable.
That video was top notch. I have to say that out of all the races, my top 3 are the Lizardmen, Skaven, and Tomb Kings. There's an aspect about these 3 that just really clicks with me, and makes me want to play the game and master their mechanics. I will say that the Dark Elves, Chaos Factions, and Grand Cathay also somewhat interest me, just not to the extent of the other 3. Regardless, this video makes me want to just jump into the game and start playing, but we've already got so much on our schedule right now. So if I do manage to find a time slot for it, I'll make sure to let you know.